What kind of impression do you have about clinical findings? Clinical findings refer to confirming the effectiveness, safety, and treatment methods by using them on healthy adults or patients. It refers to clinical trials conducted for that purpose. Some of you may have participated in one before. There are always some risks involved, but you can earn a considerable amount of money in a short period of time. That's what I thought. That was my impression too. But if it sounds too good to be true, be very careful. Pirachikan Women's Dismemberment Murder Case, October 31, 1986. A taxi driver having lunch at the Copenhagen port in Denmark noticed something floating on the sea's surface. He discovered a black plastic bag, and when he checked its contents, to his shock, human lower body parts were found stuffed inside a container in Denmark. The police thoroughly searched the harbour and the surrounding waters. By November 7th, from the seabed, about 1.5 kilometers away, they found more bags stuffed in the same way. The head, arms, and whole body were recovered. Surprisingly, the investigation It was revealed that the victim was a Japanese woman. Her name was Kazuko Toyonaga, and she was 22 years old at the time. She got involved in the incident while participating in a pharmaceutical study tour overseas. After that, the case was thoroughly investigated as an unprecedented incident, but unfortunately, as of 2020, the perpetrator has not been caught and it remains classified as an unsolved case. Who is the perpetrator? Is there really an organized darkness lurking behind the scenes? Now, here are the details of the case. From June 1983 to December 1985. She lived in Higashi Shinkoiwa, Katsushika Ward, Tokyo, spent time with her family, and worked part-time in sales through a staffing agency. In January 1986, she traveled to her home country and then returned to Japan. After that, she mostly stayed at home and spent time having fun in the Kansai area. During a conversation with a friend, she heard about a clinical trial tour. The details were as follows. The trial location was a hotel in Freiburg, West Germany at the time, where participants would be confined. The period was about 4 months from the departure date on May 20th to September 12th off. The clinical trial company would cover all expenses and participants would receive an allowance of about 10,000 yen per day. The hotel was free, meals were provided, but eating out was also allowed. Additionally, the local language was German. Studying at the school was beneficial despite occasional mandatory participation in the clinical trial. Meals and accommodation were provided. You could earn 10,000 yen daily, saving nearly 1.2 million yen over 4 months. Additionally, the opportunity to live abroad is attractive to many. It felt like a pretty good deal. At the time, it was expected that the pill would be available for sale in Japan within a few years. Pharmaceutical firms in Japan and abroad were developing it. There was fierce competition, and companies were recruiting participants with considerable incentives. The West German company that organized this study tour also needed data on Japanese women in order to enter the Japanese market, so they cooperated with Japanese companies and Japanese women. They recruited women, including her. The participants were women between the ages of 22 and 30. There were 5 participants. The content involved taking a new birth control pill developed by this company and collecting data by testing hormone levels in the blood. At the preliminary briefing session, detailed explanations about the study were given and consent forms were obtained in case any problems occurred during the study. May 20th, 1986. The participants left Narita Airport for Freiburg, West Germany. Upon hotel arrival, the group adapted and underwent testing. They waited for the start of the study on June 9. From June 9 to September 12, the study went smoothly and the required data was gathered. After the study ended, the other 4 remained in Europe while she left. They traveled around various places and returned to Japan in October, but after the study ended, she entered Italy and traveled alone in Europe. She kept traveling to various locations into October. On October 4th, she arrived in Helsinki, the capital of Finland, and sent a letter to her family saying she would travel to southern Europe via Copenhagen. However, this letter ended up being the last news from her. From October 1 to November 7th, as mentioned at the beginning, her dismembered body was discovered from a bag found at the port of Copenhagen. The body was identified as hers because the dental records and blood type matched those of an Asian person. The Japanese Metropolitan Police found that she had similar characteristics, and when they compared the fingerprints sent from the site, they matched. According to the local authorities, she is believed to have been suffocated and assaulted by someone between October 8th and 15th. There were no signs of that, and no toxins or drugs were found in her blood. Now, Based on what we've covered so far, this is a tragic case of a Japanese woman being targeted overseas. However, it's being suggested that there might be more to this case. Here are the reasons why. Normally, when overseas pharmaceutical companies conduct clinical trials, they ask major Japanese pharmaceutical companies or universities in Japan to handle them. However, spending a large amount of money to take Japanese women overseas for such trials is an unheard of method. This company still hasn't explained why they conducted the clinical trial tour, and these points remain unclear. The conditions offered were exceptional even for that time. It is true that back then there was an expectation that birth control pills would be available in Japan within a few years. However, for domestic sales, only data from Japanese women collected within Japan was considered valid. Overseas data was not subject to review, so why did this company bring people overseas to conduct the clinical trials? The company is suspected of conducting overseas trials to bypass regulations, as birth control pill trials were not approved in Japan at the time. These suspicions are fueled by the pharmaceutical company's history of similar incidents in 1982 and 1985, leading people to believe there is something questionable about this case. The victims in both cases were young foreign women of unknown nationality. Each of them was killed. They were found dismembered in the city of Freiburg. This case occurred in 1986, which means that over the 4 years from 1982 to 1986, 3 participants in the clinical trials conducted by this company were murdered and dismembered. It was suspected that the same perpetrator, possibly an insider, was responsible for what happened. The police authorities requested investigative cooperation from the relevant countries. In response, the pharmaceutical company admitted that it was true the Japanese woman who was victimized had participated in the clinical trial, but said the trial had already ended. Afterwards, they had no contact with her at all. There is no evidence that the other 2 female victims participated in the clinical trial. Therefore, the series of incidents are completely unrelated to our company, and we categorically deny all allegations. After that, the police authorities continued their investigation, but unfortunately, no suspects emerged during the investigation since the incident occurred. About 30 years later, in August 2017, on a coast about 50 kilometers south of Copenhagen, the person who had gone missing at that time was found. The torso of Swedish female journalist Kim Wall was discovered, and the perpetrator was arrested immediately. Peter Madsen. He was 46 years old at the time. This man was an inventor and had designed a submarine called the Nautilus. After questioning the woman who came to cover the ship, he killed her and dismembered her. He also recorded the whole thing on video and then sank the entire ship afterward. Considering the similarities between this case and the incident in Copenhagen, the police have linked them together. A new investigation has started to determine if Peter Madsen was involved in this case, if there is another perpetrator, or if it was a single person or organized crime. And whether she was targeted by chance or if there was some reason behind it still remains unsolved. The truth behind this case remains in the dark. One message I want to share: it's delicious. Please be very careful about what you hear. That's all for today. Thank you for watching.